Hello, everyone. Namaste to everyone. This is our the video podcast series. I am Priya Seetharaman, your host, and today's episode we are having a special guest, Ms. Sonali Karande Brahma. Let me give an introduction about her profile. Sonali Karande Brahma is an award winning international brand strategist and creative advisor with 27 years of experience in creating powerful stories for brands both in the traditional and digital domain. She works with corporate, personal, and product service brands in India, UK, US, UAE, APAC, Ireland, and in Canada. She is a global speaker and is on the jury panel for national and international advertising award shows and summits. She is an alum of SIBL Pune. She believes in positivity and women power and is a professional speaker on these topics as well. Sonali Brahma was awarded the title of Top 50 Most Influential Content Marketing Professionals, Asia, and Top CMOs for Emerging Startups. She is a happy interaction where passion, purpose, and profession meet. Let us welcome Sonali Karande Brahma to our podcast show for today. Hello, Ms. Sonali.
Hi Priya, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
All
Thank
good, all good.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming on the show. I have given a brief profile introduction about you today. And today's topic, as we all know, it is on personal branding. So I will have some questions to you, Sonali. So Sonali is an expert professional. As I introduced, she's working for people, personal and corporate branding as a brand strategist too. My first question to you, Sonali, is what is this all about, personal branding, and why it is so important? If you can throw some light to our viewers.
Yeah, sure. So this is a question that is often asked. Personal brands are becoming more and more important, especially I would say post-COVID.
Okay.
Somehow this trend, caught up after COVID, largely. But personal brands have always been there because ultimately in business, people buy into people. So you don't really buy into a company. For example, let's say that there are two companies in the reckoning, right, for a particular order from another company. What actually happens is two walls are not talking to each other, right? There is one person from this company or a team talking to another from this company. Now, what happens is, given that both the companies have got equal offerings, in terms of product features, price, everything,
Mhm.
then who does the order go to? The order goes to that person which the buyer trusts more.
Mhm.
Okay, so more than likability, the trust factor comes into place. Now, how does the
Mhm.
buyer really come to trust this person more?
Mhm.
One definitely is that this person is known to him, right? He
Mhm.
has interacted with him earlier, or he may be part of his network, family, friends, whatever. But the
Mhm.
other, if both are strangers, then this person has worked on his persona, his personality in a
Mhm.
way that the buyer has started to trust what he says.
Right.
So this is a phenomenon which has been around for years, decades, I would say,
Mhm.
but it has got a sort of a formula now.
Right.
So what happens is if you consciously start building your uh, brand, a personal brand, then automatically people start knowing you, right? Especially with social media and all that. Okay, we don't meet, right? But we see let's say I see you on social media and I
Mm-hmm.
know you, I feel I know you so well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, the trust starts happening. So that is why this personal branding is what it is. And that is why the importance of personal branding in business, especially.
Okay.
So that's how it is.
Okay. Further to what you have said, so my next question would be to how would I know if I am the person, I am the right candidate, or I am in a position that I need to go for branding, or I need to brand myself, or any person for that matter? So, how would one identify themselves in that
Hmm,
position? So, I'm
correct.
ready. How do
Acha.
you?
So essentially, I think what we need to keep in mind is that each person is a potential brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? What really is branding all about? Branding is all about establishing that differentiation. So if you go back to the core principles of branding, so branding actually came about when there was cattle years back. When there was cattle, like let's say there were 10 people in a village, in a place, and they each one had cattle.
Okay.
The cattle used to get lost. How would you know that this was mine? So
Mm-hmm.
that's when they used a hot iron, very, very cruel, but they used a hot iron to stamp on the cattle's back, right?
Okay.
On the cow's back or whatever, on the sheep. And that's how this brand thing, very cruel, but that's how the brand, yeah, very
Okay.
cruel. Yeah, I always feel awful
Scary.
when I even speak about this. But that's how this brand thing, came about.
Okay.
And hence I feel that each person is a brand today,
Mhm.
starting from the age of 13, because we know that 13 is the age when you're allowed to watch whatever on OTT, you're allowed to be on social media, etc. I would have said 18, but that's when actually you can start building your personal brand, right? Like if you're a student, and let's say for example that you want to become someone in the field of music, and you are really very good at playing the guitar, for example. If you
Mhm.
start an Insta page at the age of 13, 14, whatever, and you start putting out your original stuff there or whatever you feel about music, then you're already on your way to, being a brand in whatever, whatever it is worth. So it could be a small brand in the beginning, but there are already people who will know you by the time you reach the age of 2021, when you will probably go to a music school in London. And, that's how it is. So each person is a potential brand.
Potential brand. So, is it going to be different from the public imagery, what you're trying to say, or is it the
Yeah.
same?
It is different in the sense that a person, so there are two things in branding. One is
Mhm.
called as the personality, the other is called as the image, right? Now, brand personality and brand image are two sides of the same coin, but
Okay.
brand personality is established by the brand himself or herself. For example, if you're talking about personal branding, and let's say
Mhm.
you want to build a personal brand, then
Okay.
you are the person who are going to set some sort of guidelines or guardrails saying that this is what my brand personality is.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
eventually, when you start implementing all that, then after, let's say, a year or two, you might do a survey to find out whether that personality is matches to the image that people have about it. So a brand image is formed by the people, the consumers who consume your brand in whatever way,
Mhm.
right? So what happens is, while you say that PR, or building an image sounds similar to personal branding, PR is only a part of personal brand.
Okay. Right.
It is
Okay.
the way you distribute, or it is the way you project your brand. But
Mhm.
before that, there is an entire strategy that comes into the picture.
Right. But it all starts with the
It all
personal.
starts, it all starts with that. PR is a part of that. It plays it could play a big role.
Okay. Okay.
So,
But
so that.
here, as you said, if I have to understand the person, let's say, for example, Priya, and
Hmm.
I dictate or I set some identification for myself. Okay, this is
Yes,
where I want to be, and this is where I am, and these are the
correct.
goals. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
And why? So why
and
do you want to build a brand? So that is actually core to every, every exercise that you undertake. So
right.
why do you want to be a brand? It starts
Mhm.
with the why, and then it goes on to, the five W's and one H,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is
Could
why,
you
where, when.
explain
Yeah.
that?
So five W's and one H is often also interpreted as again not a very good thing, but five wives and one husband because it's easy to remember, like a
Remember?
mnemonic.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have these, why, what, where, who,
Mhm. Right.
okay, and when. So those are the five W's, and one H is how.
Oh, yeah.
So the way the brand strategy begins, whether it's a personal brand or corporate brand, is by establishing the five W's first, and then you
Mhm.
come to the how, and the implementation is the how. So you take forward the how. So where am I
Right.
going to be present? What am I going to say, etc. All
Right.
these things come in the how. So there's a lot of stuff
Mhm.
before we actually start
Yeah.
putting out a brand there.
Right. Right. Yeah. A lot of background work and
Absolutely.
research happens and
Yeah,
strategy. That's where you come into play.
correct.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So, are there any set rules, like we call it as a golden rule, for
Hmm.
certain, if a person want to brand himself or herself, what are the certain golden rules that one should look up to, or maybe a person who is starting out to
Yeah.
become a brand strategist or like you? So, what one should keep in mind?
Yeah. Golden rules, of course. See, the first golden rule I think is, be authentic. But before that, understand who you are.
Mhm.
And first, so self-awareness, right? And I think I'm slightly going into your realm now. That
That's
self-awareness, yeah, it
good.
is
Yeah,
it is very important to
very
know.
important.
Yeah. So even if I give it a very popular terminology like a SWOT, strengths
Mhm.
and weaknesses and whatever, but
Right,
understand yourself also means that understand your purpose
right,
and understand why you want to, let's say, become a personal brand. Then self-awareness becomes important,
right.
right? And then you proceed into all those areas where you start defining who you are, and
Mhm.
and then you start putting out the content and all those things. And so that's a lot of you know lot of considerations there. So golden rule is authentic, because once you understand who you are, then you need to live up to that. Because if you don't, like, let's say that you're trying to project to be somebody that you're not,
Mhm.
you won't be able to carry it very far, right? So
Right.
there's a
I'm just
wonderful,
coming to that. Yes,
yeah,
really, very
it
good.
real
It
it will,
defines.
you will give away at one point in time or not,
True,
yeah, that
true,
way. So
true.
there was this a real example, and this came from a friend whom we met in March, and this is from the US. There was the CEO who was hired by a multinational, real event, okay, and
Mhm.
this person was known to be giving into anger issues, right? And he was excellent in his performance otherwise.
Mhm.
Now, eventually, his anger started showing up, right? And then people were not happy. His team and the company and everything was not happy. So the
Mhm.
company decided to put him into a program of
Mhm.
about 3 months, paid, obviously, all
Mhm.
that. And he came out fine, and everyone thought that, okay, wow, like he's a
Mhm.
changed person and all. And again, maybe he went on in his new avatar for about 2 months, but after that it started coming back again. Yeah, ultimately, in about 6 months, the company had to let him go.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that there are certain behaviors that society approves of, right? I mean,
Mm.
we all know that in the corporate world, especially, and we all
Mm.
try to be those things.
Yes.
Okay, but we also know that, let's say, I want to get rid of my anger issues 10
Mm.
on 10, but it's not possible because that's not the way I am,
Mm.
right? If I am a very forthright person, then I cannot
Mm.
be a diplomatic person 10 on 10 to nahi. It's not
Mm.
possible, right? So that is where the self-awareness comes
Mm.
in. And then once you have that, then you really have to put out realistic goals as well as be authentic.
Mm.
So the first golden rule of personal branding is understand yourself, and the second one is be authentic.
Yeah.
And it is the rule of brand positioning, because in
Okay.
positioning you cannot try to be what you're not, even if
Okay.
it is a product. So be
True.
yourself, be authentic. Second golden rule is be relatable and be
Mm.
of value to others. Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, there's one golden rule, Priya, of personal branding, which a lot of people don't talk about or are essentially shy because as Indians, the Indian, we Indians are a different, kind of people, right? In the
Mm.
sense that we believe that when you start talking about your own achievements, we are tom-tomming, trumpeting, okay, which
Mm.
doesn't go down in our culture. But unfortunately or fortunately, in personal branding, you have to talk your walk.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to walk first, obviously, but then you have to talk your walk because the world is full of competition and
Mm.
nobody is going to come and pick you up from one corner of the world and say that, hey Sonali, I have heard about you. Where? If they haven't heard about you, they don't know you exist.
Oh.
So just to establish the fact that you are exist and
Mm.
then establish your differentiation, you got to talk.
Yeah.
And that is where the distribution of your content comes into the picture. So
Mm.
please ensure that you're talking about what you're doing. Otherwise, it's of no use. If
Okay.
growth is on your agenda, depending
Mm.
on your objective.
True. True.
So that is how it is. Golden rules: be authentic, be relatable, offer value, and talk.
Wow.
Talk your walk. Yeah, I would say that first. Very
Yeah, I
important.
like it. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
Talk your work. Yes.
talk
It's
your walk.
it's the other way around.
Yeah, walk your talk तो होना ही चाहिए. I mean, it cannot be an empty brand, right? An empty brand is of no value to anybody.
True. True.
But we can't be doing all the good work and sitting in a corner expecting
Mm.
people to know about the good work that we are doing. Doesn't work like
Uh,
that anymore.
that reminds me of something which I started to realize in the last few years. Is I started my own social work and NGO way back in
Hmm.
2010. Sometimes it used to be we get caught up in that. Oh, should I not be? I'm doing social work. I shouldn't be talking about it, or I
Hmm.
shouldn't be people immediately jump on to say, okay, you're posting and you're too much going hype about it, or you are, it shouldn't be talked about. So, but my here, what I've learned during the process is if I don't talk about it, where am I going to get the fundings?
Yeah.
Am I going to get the kind of source of income because it is a non-profit organization. It is to do with helping people. Of course, you need to. So, of course, yeah, learn the hard way. But
Yeah.
yes, I could so very relate to what you've said. I so agree upon
Yeah.
completely that whatever it
Absolutely.
is, giving values, of course, the
Yeah.
golden rules, be authentic is the first, as you said, it's on the topmost list. But yeah, we need to be able to talk the walk. Else, whatever you do, even if I'm trying to do some awareness sessions or in my area of interest, or I won't be able to reach up to the masses. My
Exactly.
agenda is not getting purposed or
Absolutely.
it's not getting
Absolutely.
solved, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
could
more than that, you know what? Yeah, what I thought in case of any non-profit, for example, your beneficiaries, your potential beneficiaries, if you don't expand,
Mm.
how are you going to ensure that more and more people benefit from your company or your work?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate goal of a non-profit, right?
Yes.
NGO,
Yes.
non-profit, whatever. So we
Yeah.
are trying to, give of ourselves a little bit to the society so that we can help better so many more lives.
Yeah.
But that so many more lives will come only from, the more you talk about what
Talk.
you're doing, then only, like you rightly said. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that the
Yeah.
realization came to you.
It came,
Yeah.
yeah, the hard way, but yes, I started to, we're trying to work on it, of course. So, on this note, my next question to you would be, so has there been any difference between the social workers who's projecting or branding themselves, or with respect to the other, and maybe an entrepreneur or anyone,
Mhm.
musician, public figure, or anything? So, what is the difference, if there are any differences? How
There's
one should,
no difference. There is no difference really, because
everything is a
uh,
brand.
yeah, ultimately you have the same platforms to talk about today, right? It's probably the only difference is what sort of a brand you are, and what you are, and what is it that you want to be projected, and is that the right way people are taking it. So that's the only
Mhm.
difference, because each person is unique, right? I mean, let's say, for example, that there is another equally capable, equally successful, whatever brand strategist sitting by my side. But the moment you interact even for 5 minutes with her and me, you will see that we are different,
Right.
because I mean, each person is different, right? So actually, in a way, Priya, I absolutely love, working on the personal branding strategies of different
Mhm.
people, even if they are similar in a way. It's
Right.
because each person is unique, and I
Mhm.
think that's essentially what brand positioning is about.
Yeah.
But then this is God's gift to brand strategists like me, right? Because each person is anyways unique.
Yeah.
So I think it sort of, in a way, eases out, our work in building branding strategies for human
Tools will
beings.
be different, and the purpose is different.
Yeah,
As you rightly said, yeah, no
yeah,
one, no two persons can be
yeah,
same, though they
absolutely.
are on the same line
Correct.
or
Yeah,
um, even with the same expertise. Everything is
absolutely.
different. So, uh, the kind of work that you are into, your impressive profile, it speaks volume of what you have achieved in the last so many years with good experience. Yeah, it's a beautiful. So as
Yeah,
we
it's
talk
a
more about it is so else like a common man. It could be like a very new topic, or it could be. So after the session, after today's episode, probably people will gear up more towards, yeah, be ready for most of
yeah, 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 yeah,
so,
absolutely.
yes. So, anyone watching who wishes to connect with Sonali Brahma, you can comment, and we will get you connected to her. So, learn more through this episode and get in touch with her. Yeah, my next question will be to uh, what are those profiles, some profiles maybe, which you have liked it the most? Like maybe you wowed it, like impressive profiles, not from your clientele, but maybe your competitor, or you've just come across. If you could share, and why, and what is so
Yeah.
special about it?
Right. Of course. I mean, there are so many profiles. So, I don't know how many of our viewers will know this, but Leena Nair, who was earlier the CHRO of Unilever Global,
Okay.
She has a wonderful profile on LinkedIn, and she used to come up with amazing content.
Mm-hmm.
Why I keep saying used to is because she's now the CEO of Chanel,
Okay.
and I can see a lesser content from her now. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it could be some company rules or whatever. I don't know. But that was one amazing profile, and I'm not saying this because she's a friend from. We used to go to the same school earlier. I mean, like from the first to the fifth or something like that. Yeah, back then. But I absolutely loved her content. So that was one. Obviously, known personalities. I would definitely would love to speak about SRK, not because I'm a fan,
Mm-hmm.
but because if you watch him on any show, the things
Mm-hmm.
that come out have to only be natural. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so consistently
Yeah.
being seen. Like for example, his wit,
Mm-hmm.
sharp intellect, because
Yeah.
he's got that presence of mind, the way he speaks like on the go, and it's a
Yes.
very natural flow, right?
Yeah.
And the humility, that I don't know, honestly, could be a projection,
Yeah.
but a well built one.
Mm-hmm.
So sharp intellect, wit, presence of mind, I think are the amazing qualities that can come from Shah Rukh Khan. Amitabh, for the reinventing his brand, that
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing transformation, right? Because there was a period during which I remember, I mean, I used to absolutely worship the guy when I was a kid. Later on, he went into that middle age thing, and everything sort of just toppled over. And then
Mm-hmm.
he comes back with his gentle old man and whatever his, all his films again. We are back with the same Amitabh that people rave about.
Yes.
So these are known personalities. Of course, our Prime Minister Modi ji, definitely for getting the world to sit up and take notice of India. I mean, I don't think there's been a better, larger transformation for India than he has brought about. And other profiles on LinkedIn, I would definitely make a mention of the founder of Tea Fit. So that is a beverage brand, which is Jyoti Bharadwaj.
Okay.
Uh, Actually, I started following her because of her exceptional content, and then I saw that in the recent Shark Tank she was also there, and because of her whatever, I mean, some fantastic business that she's, the business mind that she has.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, she's almost become a public figure sort of a thing. Um, Jyoti Bharadwaj, and one more person who's the actually co-founder of Sugar Cosmetics. So I'm not talking about Vinita Singh. I'm talking about her husband Kaushik
Okay.
Mukherjee,
Uh-huh.
who has exceptional content. The
Oh.
kind of content that he has on LinkedIn is comes from his heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's just fabulous. I absolutely, personally, if you ask me, these are the people that I absolutely
Right.
remember and follow. So very
Mm-hmm.
good content, and this content shows the kind of person brands they are, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's so important. That's so important. Consistently, showing up with your values, with the work that you're doing, and believing in the same things and talking about the same things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
In your so you often talk about the LinkedIn platform. So is that the only the social media presence that we should be focusing more, or any other, or has it been changed in the recent years?
LinkedIn, I think will go on it for many years. LinkedIn is a very credible platform. Why I keep talking
Mm,
about LinkedIn is because if you are building your personal brand for any business related objectives, it could be
mm,
business, it could be corporate, it could be whatever, right?
mm,
So there are so many objectives related to the professional world that people have. LinkedIn is a very credible platform.
mm,
There's no you know I mean there are some aberrations there, but generally it's clean above board. I mean, that's the way LinkedIn is, right? And it ought to be like that. So very credible, very formal, professional platform that has to be there. So one cannot ignore LinkedIn. But if you're talking to an audience which is more to, like in the 20s or early 30s, up to a
Mhm.
35 at the max, then Instagram can be considered,
Okay.
because that's where a lot of Gen Z and the millennials are
Mhm.
present. Now, all these guys, the Gen Ys and Gen Zs are off Facebook, right?
Mhm.
But for people like us, like Gen X, should be on Facebook as well. Twitter has become a bit of a trolling sort of a thing. So
Mhm.
you need to have thick skin to bear all the comments on Twitter if you really want to make it your go-to platform. Instagram definitely for Gen Z and millennials, you ought to be there. So that's the way you decide on which platforms. But even the Gen Zs or the millennials ought to be on LinkedIn. Yeah, I mean, again, if you want to make a mark in the professional world, I think LinkedIn is really very important.
Mhm. So, from your profile, I also understand that you deal with the traditional domain as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
how do you go about with respect to that?
As a traditional, I started with the traditional. There was no digital at that time, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm talking about the early 90s.
25
Yeah,
years.
early 90s. So I actually passed out in 1991 from SIB in Pune. I did my MBA from there. And after that, after a few years working in the corporate world in marketing, I branched out into creative. So it was a shift for me, but a conscious shift. Probably I had more of that creative streak in me. So I started out as a writer. So that's when, Priya, we had only the traditional media. So we
Mhm.
had only newspapers, television, and radio also wasn't so big at that time. There were no RJs, there were no, all these channels that we have today. But yeah, we did have radio. So radio ads were there, TV, print, that's newspaper and magazines.
Right.
So since that was the only media, we actually started thinking from a traditional,
Mhm.
perspective totally.
Mhm.
So that's how my career has been built.
Okay.
The challenge, so this has been quite a challenge for a lot of my tribe. When I say my tribe, my generation, people into advertising, a lot couldn't easily make the transition to digital or couldn't embrace. A lot of them found it very, very difficult. Luckily for me, I didn't have any issues. I didn't even have to make a conscious decision that, okay, now I have to go digital or something. Nothing like that. Right? It
Okay.
was a very natural
Transition was
transition
very
for me. Yeah.
smooth and, okay.
So, but what happens, I always feel that if you are really grounded in those brand principles, the
Mhm.
traditional way,
Yeah.
then you're never going to lose your way in, doing your work in the right way. Today, what
Right.
is happening is a lot of the issues that founders, more and more founders are facing is the young crop thinks in
Mhm.
terms of trends, okay, trends
Mhm.
on Instagram. And they think in terms of more Instagram. They don't understand LinkedIn. They're not even interested on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
If you're looking at social media platforms.
Right.
Um, so there's the grounding and branding seems to be missing.
The same. It's lost.
That's a large, yeah, that's a large part of the problems of a lot of people.
Okay.
So I remember there was this young girl. So I also work with agencies, right? Even digital agencies, whatever it is. Anybody who wants to get a good job done can approach me. So when I was working with this agency on a particular project, there was this young 22, 3-year old sitting right next to me, and she said, "But Sonali, I don't understand how to write emails." I said,
Mhm.
so this is email marketing. I mean,
Okay.
emails in a series, right? Campaign. But
Right.
what do we write? And I was like, I mean, I didn't know what her problem was. But then patiently I understood as to what really her problem
Okay.
is, and I tried to
Mhm.
help her. But it was more like, I sitting and doing the writing for that email and giving it to her and saying that this is the, template that you can follow and
Mhm.
understand. how the person will read an email. So the challenges are different. It's not
Mm.
that their intent is wrong, but the challenges are simply different.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
is
very
so.
difficult to, yeah, understand. And traditional media, Priya, comes very naturally to me. But
Mm.
today, traditional advertising has gone for a toss because very few people watch. I mean, TV people watch, but print, unfortunately, has lost
Even
its charm.
even pre-COVID, it was like the digital boom. Since then, it's
Yeah, yeah.
definitely taken
Yeah,
a
I
toll.
mean,
And after COVID, yes, it's
yeah,
completely
there's
changed.
just nothing. I mean, today
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody comes to us for a print media campaign other than the real estate guys, and could be jewelry at specific times in,
Mm.
during
Mm.
festivals or something
Specifically.
like that. Yeah. It's all very visual now.
Mm.
There's
True.
no ideation happening in the traditional media, as I can see. There's no
Mhm.
ideation.
Right. Right. Yeah. So
So,
good. Um, maybe some just about how do you create a personal brand, if you can.
okay. So I think we should start with the objective.
Okay.
Like I said initially,
Mm.
why? Why do you want to be a brand?
Mm.
So that why could actually lead more to purpose. But after that, you need to come down to the brass tacks of business, which is the objective.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the objective, it could be that, okay, I want to convey that I'm doing so and so work to the world. So,
Mm.
bringing in awareness. Okay, that could be one objective. The other could be that I want to establish myself as a thought leader.
Mm.
Okay, so objectives are very important. And after you have the objectives, then again you go back to the five W's and one H, and that will give you, a large part of your answers. Although it takes a lot of research to do that, a lot of discussions with your customers, which we call as, focused interviews. Uh, all that is required till the time that you really find that positioning. The biggest challenge of even personal branding, and while I say this, is to understand
Mm.
what is it that differentiates the person, and what is it that needs to be conveyed, and
Mm.
then comes the how.
Okay.
So, what is it that you want to talk about? Let's say we take the case of Priya as a personal brand, right? So
Mm.
you actually start with the all the strategic processes that are required in a brand strategy.
Mm.
Otherwise, just sitting won't give you all the answers because you
Okay.
don't know, right? I mean, I'm assuming that you won't know as
Mm.
to what kind of what are the expectations of your customers or your clients today. So in all the areas that you work in, what really are the expectations? Are they still thinking about only the problems, or are they looking at growth opportunities? So which side of the spectrum do you want to go? Is it the
Okay.
problems or the opportunities? So there's a pain and there's a pleasure, right? There's a spectrum in the branding world. So
Mm.
pain and pleasure, so alleviating the pain or
Right.
increasing the pleasure.
Yes.
So then your entire strategy will be different.
Mm. Yeah.
So there are
So
a
it
lot
all
of
starts with why and the
yeah,
goal. How do you define your goal and where do you want
correct.
to? Mm-hmm.
And once you even think that, okay, this is perhaps the way I want to go ahead, there's always the question of that person coming into the picture and saying that can't identify with this thing that you're talking about. Yeah, that's not
Mm-hmm.
me.
Okay.
So that's the personal angle that comes into the picture. So sometimes it gets a little tacky. So when I work on a brand strategy, the first presentation to the client takes me a minimum of 4 hours.
Wow.
So that's you just go through one, two, three, four, and like I think one day I sat at 6 o'clock and we finished only at 10:30, and we because it was 10 p.m. We decided to wrap it up.
Close. Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. In fact, yes, as you said, this is so vast, and you could go on and on, and because
Absolutely.
it's going to be my presence if I have not been, let's say, I'm starting off in the very first, like a fresh piece.
Yeah,
Uh, Identify where I wish to be, where I want to be, and at the same
great.
time, what are my goals? And it takes 4 hours. I think it could be just minimum what you're trying
Yeah,
to say. So it could really you have to invest that kind of time and ideation and effort. Do you think the newcomers, the youth is lacking in this kind of what is your comment on that?
uh, I wouldn't say that. See, there are some really, I would say, bright young minds out there, right? I mean, it's divide. I would say my opinion is divided in a bit. So while I work with so many in the age group of 22 to 32,
Okay.
uh, I would say that it's pretty divided.
Okay.
Uh, and like I said, they have different challenges, right? And
Mm.
one really can't blame them. Like I tell all my students also, I visit a lot of these schools and I take my subjects as a course. I tell my students also that it's not your fault. You were just born later. I mean, because you haven't gone through life, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't understand because they haven't gone through it, Priya. So they
Yeah.
won't know a world without mobiles. They
Mm.
just don't understand, right? Because you
Mm.
see these, I see my neighbors' kids and all, those little ones at the age of 3, because they're not eating, they are dumped a tablet in their hands,
Tablet.
and they're sitting and eating, watching the tablet like this.
Yeah.
Malab, they don't understand.
Yeah.
But
Even
I really,
recently, that reminds me of we in the area what I work with a lot of children and parents too. So what we often tell them is let them be bored. They don't know what is
yeah,
bored. So as you rightly said, that reminds me of either they're doing this back to back A, B, B, A to Z. Constantly they are, of course, the generation, what you're saying, even the parents, peer pressure and so on and so forth that they don't know what is called a boredom.
yeah, absolutely.
Get bored. No, there has to be instilled a thing called, okay, boredom period. Something like has to be
Ah,
introduced.
that's a good
It,
thought. Yeah,
it has to be,
actually,
otherwise, you are getting into that aggression, whatnot, what are those challenges, behavioral challenges.
always hustling. That
Yeah,
word, I hate the
yes,
word. Honestly, I hate the word.
yeah.
They're constantly hustling, so to say. And like you said, they don't experience boredom. So tough world out there. If you look at there, I have always realized one thing, and I think you're more into that realm and more experienced in that area. But whatever I observe of these, kids that I work with, kids as in these are college students, but yeah, obviously kids,
Yes.
is that they have more, I feel, existential problems than, and those problems for us are more about this can't be a problem, right? I mean, so
Mm.
many times, my friends and I, we keep discussing that. How can you have these as problems? I mean, problems are like real problems. These are
Real
not real
problems. I
problems.
mean, yeah,
But then those problems are real for them.
for them, yes.
So, if you look at now in the digital and the traditional world, like in advertising, uh, I really sometimes uh, pity the kids, right? Because digital is such a medium that it's a 24 by 7 medium, right?
Mm.
And
True.
for every single day, they have to think from a campaign point of view. So they have to
Mm.
come up with multiple ideas in the span of a week,
Mm.
which for us, if you go back to the traditional days of advertising, it was not the case. Ad agencies used
Mm.
to take 3 months. to come up with the first
Yeah.
campaign, 3 months. And here you're expected to churn out, like I have seen a young girl work on 5 different brands,
Mm.
campaign for each brand in the span of a one working day. And she used to get like completely, she used to go berserk. And those ideas have to be as powerful, as relatable. Yeah.
Yes, out of the
So,
box, like the
absolutely.
box
So
we
that is a
made.
problem. Yeah. So they do understand this. The only thing, like I said, is I think with experience, they can transform into more equipped, brand strategists or creative thinkers, etc. It's just the experience that one needs to give them time. Simple. That's
In your experience as a brand strategist and as a professional working in this arena, and you deal with international brands and clients too, uh, apart from being a strategist, from a professional point of view, what has really helped you? Like your maybe your personal EQ or the spiritual quotient or the adversity quotient or that emotional resilience. So what has made you stand out and made you
Hmm.
successful in the so-called competitive um, area of branding, the brand positioning? What how do you
I
identify
don't know what to
yourself?
call it, but it may be EQ, but not exactly EQ. It's just that I look at things from a more holistic perspective. In the sense, I will just give you a very quick example. There was this company who approached me, big company, Indian multinational, which has now grown multifold. At that time, also, it had offices all over the world. This was an IT company, right? I'm not an IT engineer or whatever. And they approached me. This manager was also extremely sharp and whatever. She had a team of 8 people with her, marketing, and they approached me for Google Ads. Now she says on the call that Sonali, I think we are going wrong with our Google Ads. So the creatives, you
Yeah.
know how small Google Ads are. I
Yes.
mean, मतलब कुछ होता ही नहीं उसमें. If you ask me, I mean it could be boring work, but
Yeah.
she said we are not getting leads. Forget conversions.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we are not getting leads for the entire of last year, and we feel that Google Ads is the problem. And we want to hire your services for writing these Google Ads. So coming up with these ads. So creative entirely, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever anybody approaches me with her problem and they say that we want you to come up and give us a solution to this problem, I don't stick to that. What I do is I tell them very clearly that I cannot just accept the problem as you have told me. I need to know a lot of other things surrounding it. So be ready for some 40 questions. Yeah,
Research
yeah.
and
And then with their permission, I ask them everything surrounding it. So what is it that you're doing? What were you doing earlier? What are the activities that you're doing in
postmortem.
marketing? Pura sub, okay? Everything that I asked them. And once I did that, I understood that Google ads were not the problem. I mean, they could be part of the problem.
Yeah.
And then we went on, and finally we could find the problem, right? And once we address that problem, you won't believe it. There was a creative solution I gave to them, a very strategically creative solution. And they got conversions of an entire year in those 7 days. And she only told me this. By that
Mm.
time, my project was over. So they implemented what I had suggested in the next 2 months. And then she called me to say that Sonali, we are so happy because we got all our conversions in 7 days.
Wow.
So that was amazing,
Yeah.
right? So I think the defining factor for me is I cannot just rest on that problem defined by the client.
Mm.
I like to know everything. And the second defining factor of why people probably like to work with me is that I'm not transactional.
Mm.
So I will definitely take my price, but it's not like I will make only two changes.
Mm.
Just because you don't like it, I'm not going to change the strategy because I think that this is
Mm.
the one for you, etc. ऐसे नहीं होता है, right? I mean, it's his business, it's her brand, it's yeah. So that is the way I work with clients. I think that's probably why
That
you need to
defines
just go
it.
around a bit to understand what the real problem is. So
Yeah.
that's probably
Yeah. Okay. Um, I could go on and on and on. I mean,
yeah.
it's so interesting and very curious. So I think it's almost in our last few insights for our viewers. Maybe a common man, common woman who wishes to start. So, what would be your um, advice, suggestions, recommendations, anything for the viewers?
If any person wants to start building his or her brand, I think one should definitely start small. So, you should always follow the golden rules of branding, which I have said. Be authentic. Know what you are, know what you want, and be authentic. But after that, to get you started, one should ensure that you don't have big goals in the beginning. Otherwise, you will just get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Just take small steps. Those little steps make a lot of difference, and they will keep you consistently on the path. So I think
Mm.
that is what it is to anybody. It
Right.
shouldn't be that I've started on the path and then life happened and so I quit.
Yeah.
So life will happen, right? It keeps
Yes.
happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, start small.
That's one. Yes. All of it, whatever you've shared with us in this 1 hour, everything was golden words, I would say. Everything is a golden rule, and in your experience, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to having to come on board for the show and sharing all the wisdom, all the knowledge to our viewers. A sincere request to everyone who's going to start or who's thinking to start afresh, or maybe you're just a newcomer in your branding profile. Do connect with Sonali Brahma, ma'am, and comment on the comment box if you wish to know more about on these topics. So we would request Ms. Sonali to have another podcast show with her. Thank you so much, all the viewers. Thank you, Sonali, again, once again for
Thank
your
you.
valuable time and sharing all the wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure entirely. Great conversing with you, Priya.
Yes, same here. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.